Fantastic. So just as a reminder, these are all our partners: New Jersey Sea Grant, New York Sea Grant. I know Mindy is here. I think Diana will be joining also very soon. Thanks for being leaders for 2024 Eco Ambassadors program here. And we have Mission 4.7, Columbia University SDGs. Today, you know Mariam and Anela very well by now, since they have done all the story map related discussions before. And you've also, also have met Crow before, and Lily from the New York Sea Grant. And today we have special visitors from the New Jersey Sea Grant. And so exciting that Minty and Diana could join. Couple of things we'll be doing today is going over some of the current events that are currently in place, are about to happen in September, that might help us to situate where we are and how things need to, where we are and how we need to situate things in the bigger perspective. Some specific announcements that we have, and then I'll introduce the speakers for the day, and then discussion going forward. So just wanted to mention that currently we have a very important event going on in New York. It's called the High Level Political Forum, and it happens every year. And this year's discussion or the topic is reinforcing the 2030 agenda and eradicating poverty in the times of multiple crises. The effective delivery of sustainable, resilient, and innovative solutions. Look at the words very carefully, because it's going to give us a sense of what's the focus of the UN and the country leaders going forward. And we need to situate our work within that framework and within that bigger picture, because they are basically discussing multiple SDGs. Agenda 2030 is basically the Sustainable Development Goals, and the High Level Political Forum is run by the UN and is discusses a lot of economic issues. It reviews the sustainable development plans that all these countries have committed to. It's called the voluntary national reviews, and countries present their national plan on where they are and how far they have come, and what are some of the challenges. And many countries submit these voluntary national reviews, and they are in discussions with each other on these really important topics. And so 2024 HLPF, High Level Political Forum, will be discussing SDG 1 on poverty, 2 on hunger, 13 on climate action, SDG 16, peace and justice and strong institutions, and SDG 17, partnership for goals. So there are multiple discussions going on currently. These 2 weeks, this week and next week, are the weeks where state of the heads, lot of different people are in New York City discussing sustainable development goals and the progress. So I think very, very important aspect. If you have not looked at the HLPF website, actually, so let me see if I can share the website. Let me just stop the sharing and quickly share the website. Sorry, maybe I can, yeah, High Level Political Forum website is here. In the chat, definitely go over the website and see what these world leaders are, discussing. It will give you a sense of what the challenges are, and where things need to be, and regarding the sustainable development goals. Now, another thing I wanted to mention, which is very, very critical to the world leaders, is the Summit of the Future. So let me open if you see this, what is the Summit of the Future? Summit of the Future is basically the summit that's going to happen in September. Can you see, or can you see my screen? I hope you can, right? So basically, Summit of the Future is where the UN leaders are going to come and discuss how do we build the future and how should the changes on the sustainable development goals be? What are the priorities going forward? And how do we build a more just and sustainable future? So Summit of the Future is a high level event bringing world leaders together to forge a new international consensus on how we deliver a better present and safeguard the future. So this summit, definitely look at the website that I have shared, because this summit is going to basically define what is sustainability, how are we going to achieve it in the coming years by multiple, like many country leaders. So world leaders are going to be present in New York discussing this particular summit in September, and this is the website. You look at how they are going to how they are meeting the SDGs. This is going to be a follow up on the HLPF, and here are some key documents. Look at the common agenda, look at the scope. These are all the things that will relate to our work going forward, right? So I just want to share my slide, if I can find it here. High level political forum, and this is the Summit of the Future. As I mentioned, it's going to be in September. Usually during the UN General Assembly in September, there is the UN General Assembly, but this year we will also have the Summit of the Future that will discuss the Sustainable Development Goals. Okay, announcement. This is a really good opportunity for many students. There is a NURAG block series. NURAG is this community of practice, international community of practice group, and there will be all these. This is the first time probably I'm seeing where students can actually write about their vision for education in a blog form. So I'll share this link, NURAG link. I would definitely urge you all to please send in your blogs or send in your submissions to this NURAG blog series on provocations for education for youth climate activism. It will be done by many academics, professionals, but I want the students, that is you all, to also contribute. You can, as it is mentioned here, you can provide poetry, artwork, anything that you feel is important, depicting what your vision for education should be to promote youth climate activism. Right. So I think you will have a better sense of what speaks to you and how can you, take this forward. So I'm going to share this link with you again so that you have it. And I'll also share, of course, I can also share the presentation. As always, we will put up the video, but I just wanted to share it here before we go forward. Here. Great. So now moving on to the main aspects of today's presentation. We have two very special guests from New Jersey Sea Grant, Diana Burek and Mindy Boss, and they have really been focusing a lot on environment and environmental science aspects, especially on microplastic. This is a whole series is on microplastic, and I really want to give a big shout out to Diana to really spearhead this entire effort here with the New Jersey Sea Grant as the leaders and Columbia University coming together, working on this particular project for all of you. And it's because of the New Jersey Sea Grant and our partners with the SDGs today that we are all here doing this particular program globally, as well as for specifically for students in New Jersey and New York. I think it would be great if the students here could also follow New Jersey Sea Grant to see Diana and Mindy and their teams work on various different environmental actions. So over to Diana and Mindy for their intervention. I'll stop here. I think Diana is here, Mindy is here.
Yeah, hi. Thanks, Radhika. Hi, everybody. It's nice to see you today. Thanks for joining us, or thanks for having us join you. So Mindy is a wonderful education specialist, and she does a lot of designing of programs. Sea Grant is located here on Sandy Hook. We're in Monmouth County, and we do a lot of education programs that focus on ocean and marine sciences and climate science as well. And like Radhika said, marine debris is a big focus of what we're doing in education now. And I mentioned Mindy because Mindy is really great at developing fun activities and programs. So I'm going to turn it over to her because we're going to get started, because I know that we are limited on time and we can go on forever talking about this. So.
All right, good morning, everyone. So happy to see you guys. So yes, I have a presentation on microplastics today. It's kind of going over it's really the basics of microplastics. Some of you hopefully already know this. If not, you will learn. So I'm going to get started with sharing my screen. And all right. All right, so navigating microplastics here. So just wanted to add in here that this was also developed by my coworker, Jody Sackett. She helped me put together this presentation that I'm giving you this morning. And in case you guys see my controls, I'm gonna move my controls. And so, where do we find plastic? So you guys can probably look around right now where you're at and see some plastic. In fact, if you want to shout out something in the chat and just say what you see around you, but plastic is everywhere today. And to really think about it, plastic has really only been in heavy use for the past 70 years. So, the fact that we have so much plastic now, so much we could pretty much cover the earth in plastic, if we could just spread it all out and put it all together, we could cover the planet in plastic. It's really wild to think about how much we've done in such little time. So you can see we use plastic for everything these days, from just drinking, we put our trash in plastic. And what is plastic being mostly used for? As you can see, most of it's being used for packaging. And if you think about it, packaging, that's a single-use plastic. You use it once, you toss it away. So most of it is actually being used, one time. About 50% of plastics being used one time and then tossed away. And then you probably see these little, it looks like recycling symbols here, and the different types. And I apologize, my dogs are going crazy this morning. I don't know who's walking by my house. It's driving them nuts. Oh, let me move my dog, Shelby. I apologize. I thought my one dog would be quiet if I kept her next to me. So anyway, so you can see the plastic is made of different polymers. They label them. Does anyone know though? And if you just want to shout it out, you can put it in the chat, or you can just ask me out loud if you want. Does anyone know, does this mean, because it has this recycling symbol around here, that it can be recycled? So yeah, really the plastic that you see, most of this cannot be recycled. So it's actually just to identify the type of plastic that it is. It's really not used to mean that it's recyclable. You actually have to check if you have recycling in your community. You have to check and see which types of plastic that they actually recycle. So I live in Ocean County, New Jersey, so I can recycle 1s, 2s, and 5s. Does that mean that all 1s, 2s, and 5s are being recycled? Probably not. So that's, again, where most of our plastic, in fact, it's around like 10% of our plastic is actually being recycled. And I'll go into a little bit more some of the problems with recycling. So what's the problem with plastic? So I'll let you guys, again, put it out on the chat. Let me know why is plastic, you got some clues here on the screen. Why is plastic such a problem?
Can you see the chat, Mindy? Harming the ecosystem and marine life, can't decompose, toxic health problems, chokes the sea animals. It is to recycled, or it takes a long time to be recycled. Plastic is made from harmful chemicals. Animals are ingesting it, leading to death. Can you see them all?
Yep. See
Yeah,
them all,
okay,
yep.
cool.
So
Yeah,
all of you have hit all the various big problems with plastic. And I'll add a few more in here. So a lot of you said, accidental ingestion, it can cause damage to habitats, animals get tangled up. And then also small plastics, they can transport non-native species, say a species of algae attaches to a small piece of plastic, and then it gets caught in a current, and then it can be transported around the world. Also in the ocean, the plastics can impair vessel engines, which can cause problems just economically. Same thing with navigational hazards, with plastic in the way of large ships coming through. And that can lead to economic losses as well. As you see in the bottom of the screen, a beach there filled with plastic. Who wants to go to that beach? No one wants to sit on the beach that looks like that. So again, that causes economic issues. It can impact health because, as someone has said, that the plastics can actually, toxins can adhere to some of the plastics, and that can cause health issues. Plus, again, the plastics get ingested. They don't have any nutrients in them. And if they get caught, say, in the digestive system of an animal, then they could literally just starve to death. They'll just be full of plastic. And then plastic, just creating plastic. We're actually using fossil fuels to create plastic and using fossil fuels to create plastic, which again leads to climate change. And then also plastics, they really never go away. They just break down into smaller and smaller pieces. They don't, naturally degrade. So what are microplastics? And so we're getting to microplastics here. Who can tell me what is considered the size of a plastic? You can say it in millimeters or centimeters. Again, just type in the chat if you know. How big is it? Piece of plastic considered to be called microplastic? Yep, so everyone's got it. It's under, pretty much everyone's got it. It's under 5 millimeters, or a half a centimeter. So, yep, tiny piece of plastic less than 5 millimeters is considered microplastics. And you can see some are primary microplastics, which means they were made small. They were made as microplastics. So something you might have heard of are called nurdles. And nurdles actually are just these plastic strips that are made into other types of plastic. So they have these strips of plastic. It's like a tiny thin strip of plastic. They cut down into these little tiny, they're smaller than a lentil, less than 5 millimeters. And they're used to create other plastic items. So it could be your toothbrush. It could be your yogurt cup. It could be a water bottle, a plastic bag. In fact, anyone to tell me, we'll just go with yogurt cup. How many nurdles do you think it takes to make a yogurt cup? Write it in the chat. Just give a wild guess out there. Someone said 1,000, 5,000, 1,000. Well, it's actually not quite that much. It's about, to be exact, it's yogurt cup is 357 nurdles. And now the problem with these nurdles is that they often escape during either the processing or the transportation of them. So plastic often, is transported around the world. It's often put into container ships full of already into nurdles to be sent to a manufacturing plant to be made into some type of plastic. So those are small and it can easily escape from the environment. And then also we have our microfibers, and this is from clothing. So stuff like nylon, any type of unnaf that's not made from say denim and cotton. Those are not made from plastics, but nylon, polyester, and there's other different types of microfibers out there. Lots of fleeces out there. They shed microfibers like crazy. Now they can be longer than say 5 millimeters, but their width is really so. The width is maybe only a millimeter or less. And then there's micro beads. So micro beads are just really tiny things. They are often used here in the United States in cosmetic type products. In fact, they still are used in some makeups. However, they also used to be in toothpaste and in facial cleansers. And it was used to kind of scrub the dirt away from your face or your teeth. However, they're just little tiny pieces of plastic. And those were super small and getting into the environment. Luckily in 2017, they actually banned from putting them into products like our facial cleansers and toothpaste. However, like I said, they still are used today in some makeup products. And the ones that were already manufactured, they can still be found in some stores today. So they're still allowed to sell it if it's been made before 2017. Then there's secondary microplastics, and these are the microplastics that just break down into smaller and smaller pieces over time. And it can take anywhere from 10 to 1,000 years for plastic to break down. The three main ones here are the just big plastic debris, like our water bottles and other things we use, millions of things we use plastic for, breaking down into smaller pieces. Derelict fishing gear is a big issue. Not only does it cause entanglement, but it breaks down over time as well. And then eroding tires is a big source of microplastic. As the tires roll over the road, that is a polymer that is being broken down over time. Does anyone want to guess? Again, you can write it in the chat. What do you think are the top 2 sources of microplastics? So of the 6 I have here, what do you think are the top 2 that are making their way into the environment? Oh, I see tires, nurdles and tires, toys, microfibers and tires. Yep. So the answer is actually, it's microfibers and eroding tires are our top 2 sources of microplastics our environment. So a lot of the microfibers come from our laundry when we wash our clothes. And then also just wear and tear when we're wearing them, little bits of microfibers come off. And then of course, tires just as they roll down the road. So you can see here again, where the most of the microplastics that are in our environment come from. So that's synthetic textiles, those are microfibers, tires, and then city dust here. City dust kind of means from everyday use of people using plastics and it breaking down. So just our sneakers on the ground and our clothing as we wear them, any other plastic materials that we may use through the day, or our cell phone cases, they just start to break into smaller pieces and shed small pieces. And that gets into the environment. And so where do you find microplastics? Really, microplastics have been found everywhere. So they've been found at the top of Mount Everest. They've been found in the Mariana Trench, the deepest part of the ocean. So really everywhere, every body of water tested in the world. So from, remote lakes up in Alaska, or even like Canada and other remote places of the world, Antarctica, and then plastics are getting transported. One major source, because they're small and lightweight, is wind. And then also through our watersheds. So the plastics, drain off the land and then get into our oceans that way. And then once they're in the ocean, they can be transported around the world from ocean currents and ocean gyres, which I'll go into in a little bit more. So, and the microplastics in our waterway, as you can see, definitely going to the more people in an area, and unfortunately New Jersey is a very heavy populated area. The more people, the more microplastics we have. So microplastics in the ocean. So most of the plastics that are in the ocean actually started up on land. Again, the rain, weather, winds, all start to drain those microplastics off the land, either through our storm drains or just being blown away. Some of it from littering, but some of it just from everyday use, like our cars, riding on the roads and doing our laundry. The laundry, today our laundry, our washers don't have a way to filter out those microplastics that are in them. And they just wash into the water treatment system. And most water treatment plants don't have small enough filtration to filter out a lot of those microplastics. So then they just get dumped into our ocean. And then again, sometimes it's just from the breakdown of things like nets, boats, actually any kind of vinyl or even acrylic type paint that might be used on boats. They start to break down and they shed microplastics into our ocean. And so now I'm going to do a little activity with you here. And I'm actually going to stop share for just a second, and then I'm going to try to split my screen. Go back to Zoom here. All right. All right, you guys can see me in the screen? You see a split? Awesome. Okay, so what we're going to take a look at. You can see on my shared screen that there's different sea animals that either at the surface of our ocean. Some are more pelagic, meaning they just swim in the open ocean, and then some are benthic, meaning they were found at the bottom. And then I have different type of plastics, all the different ones labeled 1 through 6 here. I actually don't have a 7. And you can just take a guess in the chat. I'm going to put up the plastic, and you're going to tell me, you think this is going to sink or float? Is this going to impact our zooplankton and herring gulls, or is this going to impact our, say, benthic feeders, like our crabs? So let's see, I'm going to have a bag here full of different numbered plastics. Oh, cool. Picked out a number 1. So do you guys think that this plastic is going to float and say impact our zooplankton or plankton that's floating at the surface, or maybe birds that are flying at the surface? Or do you think this is going to sink, or maybe say neutral buoyant and kind of float in the middle, affecting our pelagic feeders? So simple, do you think this is going to sink or float? And we're going to test it in just a second. All right, so here I have my bottle of water. I'm going to put the plastic in, and then I'm going to make sure it doesn't have any surface tension by just pressing down lightly. Well, I don't know if you saw that, but the plastic actually sunk. And actually, let me put my big piece of paper under here. The little piece of plastic, the number 1 plastic, actually sunk. So if you said it was going to sink, you're correct. And that number 1 plastic actually mostly comes from like soda bottles and water bottles. That's what most of it comes from. All right, I got another piece of plastic. Number do I have? This is a number 4. So number 4 plastic. This is the low density polyethylene. Often it's found in packaging. Actually, I have something to show you, which I just got this morning. Just what I do with it real quick. Oh. So my son needed a belt for his baseball game, and lo and behold, I'm looking for number 4 plastics. There it is. Came in. Guess who sent it? And then he got his belt that he needed for his baseball, and this was sent in. You guys can read it. A number 4 plastic. So used a lot in packaging. Also other things like squeeze bottles it may be used for. So again, we're going to see what part of the ocean this low density polyethylene is going to impact, surface feeders or benthic or pelagic feeders. So I'm going to drop this in, make sure I get the surface tension off of this by giving it a little tap. Oh, and if you see, it's actually staying. I'm going to try to turn it. Don't know if that's going to help, but it's staying kind of in the middle. Oh, you guys can probably see it. It's floating pretty much. So you guys can see that number 4 there floating. All right. And now let's pick out our next piece of plastic. Oh, this is number 3. So this is made from, it can be PVC. In fact, I do have a piece of PVC in here. And then often the PVC is lightened up and made into like those clamshells, almost like containers you would use for takeout. And put this in here. I think it's going to sink or float. And place it in, give it a little tap. All right, so this number 3 plastic, this actually one floated as well. So this again would impact our surface feeders. Let's go. Oh, okay, here's number 2 plastic. That's our high density polyethylene. So this is used in a lot of detergent bottles, like our milk jugs as well, you know, in our laundry detergent. So we're going to place this in. Also plastic bags. This is actually probably from some type of like a laundry detergent thing, but plastic bags can also be number 2. Is it going to sink or float? Give it a little tap here. Oh, number 2 is floating. As you can see, 2, 3s, and 4s are floating here. And oh, I actually have another. Here's that packaging, that number 4 plastic. We can see if this will sink or float, because sometimes how it's made is going to impact whether it floats or sinks. Get this out of the way. All right, I'm gonna press it down in there. And this one's a little bit more, it would probably impact more of our pelagic feeders. It's kind of sinking, not quite. I would say it's kind of what we call positively neutral buoyancy. And let's see, I have number 5 plastic. So number 5 would be, say, from our yogurt containers, some of our other food containers like ketchup bottles or mustard bottles. So I'm going to see if what part of the ocean this would impact. Oh, and this one. Oh, get rid of the surface tension. This is also a floater here. So again, as you can see, our surface feeders are not doing very well. Trying to look for my piece of PVC. Here's just a little tiny piece of PVC here. I'm going to drop this in, see what happens. Oh, that PVC sunk right away. And so that the PVC is a number 3 plastic, polyvinyl chloride. Number 6 plastic. So this is polystyrene. It's often kind of like from a foam container. This is a little foamy. Styrofoam is often too. I think I have another number 6 here, that's styrofoam. What part of the ocean is this going to impact? So you can see number 6, it's sunk. So our poor crabs and flounder are accidentally ingesting these. Here's our styrofoam. This is from an egg carton, another type of number 6. Does it sink or float? Again, I'm going to give it some, released its surface tension, and you can see this one actually floated. So you can see what's floating up here. Got a pretty polluted surface here. And my last one that I have is a number 5. And you see this number 5, you see what this is? It's a bottle cap. So we're going to see, does this sink or float? I'll try to put my background up here. Use my hand. And again, I've got to get rid of that surface tension, but nope, it's filled with water, but it's still floating. So we can see our surface is filled with a lot of pollution, but then some plastics do sink as well. So plastics really can be found in any part of our oceans, impacting all the different animals that are out there. Right now, I'm just going to change my screen just back to normal. All right. And now the ocean garbage patches. So you might have heard of like the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. And those are really, they're caused by ocean currents and caused by ocean gyres. Ocean gyres are caused from the rotation of the earth. I mean, as we all know, the earth spins. And as the earth spins, this actually creates movement in the water in a circular pattern. So you have, you know, you might see on the small screen my globe here, but as I spin the globe, the water would actually start to deflect depending, you know, if I'm in the northern hemisphere, it's going to go counterclockwise. If I'm in the southern hemisphere, it's going to go, the water's going to go clockwise. And then also we have our continents, and then our continents are going to deflect the ocean currents. And again, they're going to cause them to kind of deflect and turn. And that creates a gyre in the ocean. And then it also has to do with pressure systems as well, the cold water and warm water mixing and winds. And the general wind patterns actually come from the rotation of the earth. But anyway, you can see there's garbage patches from around the world. The Great Pacific Garbage Patch is the most well-known one. However, every ocean of the world has a garbage patch these days. And now a lot of people, like, you hear things like, it's the size of Texas in the ocean. It is big. However, it's not like you could walk across it. It's more like soup. And most of it is microplastics. It's not necessarily just like a big landmass of plastic that you could go on. It's more like a vortex of plastic, or like I said, plastic soup that's swirling around.
Mindy?
Yes.
There's a really good question in the chat. So one of the questions actually was about the water that you used. So the water in your beaker is fresh water.
That was fresh. And I dyed it blue
Yeah.
just to make it a little easier to see the things sink or float.
Right. And so the question was so what we said in the chat was that seawater has a lower density than fresh water, but seawater has more of a buoyant force associated with it, so it's more likely to make things float. But that activity is just showing you that different types of polymers behave differently in aqueous environments.
Yeah, and pretty much even in an ocean environment, all those ones that would sink, because you could test it with salt water, all those ones that sink will still sink.
And so another question, which I thought was a good question, was are the plastics that sank more dangerous than the floating ones?
It doesn't necessarily mean that I have heard. I know that number 4 plastics, I think it's number 4s and number 1s, more toxins tend to adhere to them. But I think number 4, 4 floated and 1 sunk, so I don't think it really matters. Sometimes it depends too what kind of additives they add to plastics. They do add additives, say fire retardants, colorations, all those, depending on what they use, can be toxic as well. And they could add them to different, like microfibers. Lots of, you can buy pajamas that are fire retardant, and they actually will have that, and those aren't necessarily proven to be very healthy for you, although they do find fires. So
there is another comment. There's a little bit of a discussion about all the plastics that are in the environment, and then people are making them, and big companies know that they're bad, and they still make them. But that's why we're here talking to you, because we need your help. We need your help in the future in helping to develop new technologies to mitigate this problem, to either help eradicate it, or to come up with new types of materials. The solution really lies with you guys.
Great. Yeah. So yeah, thank you, Diana. All right, so I have another little quick demo to show you about microplastics in the environment. Actually, I can just turn off the share. I don't need to split screen. Share, no share. Oh, trying to turn off the share. Turn on. Am I still sharing with you guys? You still see my screen? Just trying to turn it off, and I don't see the control to turn it off.
I can stop it for you, Mindy. Now you're
Okay.
sharing.
Yeah,
Yes.
keep hitting share and keep saying share, share, share. Not stop share. Okay, so here I have actually some polluted sand here. Now, I polluted this somewhat. Actually, my coworker Jody polluted this. As you can see, there's different types of things in here. And I have a sieve. And so I have a sieve here. And I'm actually going to show you the sieve. So this is actually a sieve. See 5 millimeters. That's how big the sieve in here is. So anything that gets caught in here is not going to be a microplastic. And then anything below is actually will be a microplastic. So I also have this one is a 2.5 millimeter sieve. And then the next one I have, this one is a 1.5 millimeter sieve. So we're going to pretend, this sand is up on the beach, and now, we're going to try to clean it up. And so we're going to dump this sand into our sieve. And you guys can see, I got lots of different sizes of plastics in here. I'm going to shake this up, get anything, see some of the stuff falling to the bottom. So all of this up here, not microplastic, this will be considered a microplastic, but let's get rid of this. Then you can see up here, I still have a few, actually, a few microplastics in here. See, also there's some bits of shells in here as well because it's sand. So there's some bits of shells. And then I have, it's even harder to see probably, but a few smaller. And if you see something shiny, that's actually glitter. So if you can see, glitter is a microplastic, and look at all the glitter that was caught down in there. So glitter, very small, caught in a microplastic. So now we're going to take this. We've tried to clean this sand, but now we're going to try to we're going to pretend this is there's a storm that comes by, and the storm is washing the sand into our ocean. And so now we have our sand that's in our ocean. It got washed in. And if you guys can see, redirect the camera, all that glitter floating on top looks pretty, but not very pretty. And this is a pain in the butt to clean up after. Then they do make biodegradable glitters these days and edible glitters these days that are supposed to be non-toxic. So you can see, and some of the little things that we have, it's hard to see in here because you see the sand, but they're kind of floating in the middle and at the bottom. However, remember I said we have our ocean gyres, and then our ocean gyres is causing this water to circulate. So as the water circulates, you can see everything is getting mixed up. And really, those microplastics are going to be found all over our oceans and getting transported around the world. So just a quick little demo there showing how that microplastic turns into a Great Pacific Ocean garbage patch. All right, back to our presentations. And
I just want to address a couple of the questions that are in the chat too. So the question was, can the microplastics become smaller? And yes, the answer was, yep, they can become nanoplastics. And then the follow-up question was, is it possible to collect nanoplastics? Well, there are researchers that are looking at ways to collect nanoplastics and microfibers in various that could be used in commercial products like washing machines. So technology is being developed, and hopefully it doesn't take too long to get put into action. Another question was, where did all the glitter come from? So, think about maybe a shirt that you might have, or if you think about a lot of children's clothing.
Even just go to the craft store.
Yes.
Michael's has like a big section. The Michael's craft store in the United States is a big section of just glitter.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. But all the glitter that's used in clothing, like holiday decorations, kids' shoes.
Holiday cards. I think
Yes, holiday cards.
holiday cards.
Yeah, so a lot of different places. And another question was about lobbying. Can't we just stop the lobbying? That is definitely a way bigger issue than something that we can tackle right here, but being involved in this project could really help to inspire you in the future to get involved in in having an effect on the policies that decision makers are putting into place. And, you know, you guys, I said earlier, you guys are our future leaders. So maybe you'll be the ones helping to make the decisions. And that's why we're here, you know, talking about the basics so that you can take it from there.
Yep. And so, okay, so now we have microplastics in our oceans, and, you know, okay, so what? Why does this matter? So for one, the plastics, as you can see in the picture of the plastic, looks like a plastic bag that's a little green because it's becoming a host for marine algae to grow. Again, if this was just a small bits of microplastic, this could then transport that algae around the world. Also, the little microplastics end up as, you know, being ingested by zooplankton and other small animals, mistaking it for their prey. And you can see how it's ended up in this little, I don't know, baby, it's some type of zooplankton. I'm not going to say what it is. I have no idea. And so it's being accidentally eaten. Will it go through its digestive system? Maybe, maybe not. Lots of the plastics, they go in the digestive system. Sometimes they come out the other end. And, you know, lots of microplastics have been found in other parts of tissues of other animals. I know in oysters and clams, it's been found in other parts, the microplastics been found in the other parts of their body besides just their digestive system. And then that enters the food chain. And so, you know, then those microplastics are, say, eaten by the zooplankton that eat our fish, that our fish are eating, and then we eat the fish and we get microplastic into us. But it's not even just the seafood we're consuming. Things that are packaged in plastic, like water, have been found to contain microplastics. And again, what's the harm in that little bit of plastic? Again, it can block the digestive system, it leads to malnutrition and starvation. And then, as I've talked about before, lots of plastics are made with toxins. BPA and phthalates are one of the, you know, two major ones that you might have heard about. However, there's some plastics, they actually like to absorb toxins that are already in the environment, say from past pollution or past polluting, where things were unregulated and dumped into our waterways. And now they like to, some of these, such as PCBs, heavy metals such as mercury, DDT, which was a pesticide used in the 70s. They like to adhere to plastic. They're attracted to the plastic. And those are called POPs, persistent organic pollutants. Those are like I said, the PCBs, heavy metals. And that can have a whole plethora of health problems. Lots of them are known to cause cancer. They cause hormone disruption, which can lead to reproductive issues, lung and liver issues. However, what the total extent of it is for the health of our sea animals and for the health of humans, not a lot is known yet. A lot of this research is very new and upcoming. Really, this research on microplastics has been maybe 15 years, really kind of, and just starting to take off. So there's a lot more research that needs to be done. You know, I'm starting to see more articles come out about the impact to health, but so far, nothing has come out to be so persuasive to make people just want to stop using plastics like these big companies, because they're making too much money, like we said. And so there's nothing that they find right now that could, you know, be devastating to the world's populations, although it's not looking good. But we do need a lot more research to be able to prove that it's not good. And then microplastics, okay, they're in the food chain. Okay, so as a zooplankton eats what they think is a phytoplankton, and it actually is a microplastic. So these animals that are low in the food web, they consume microplastics, and as they consume them, more and more of them, what would we call, I'm kind of quizzing you here. It starts with the word bio, but they're building up plastics in their body. So what would that be called? Does anyone know what we would call that one? A toxin builds up into an animal's body. Type it in chat. Biomagnification, you're close with biomagnification, but it's not considered biomagnification. It's actually called bioaccumulation. So they bioaccumulate microplastics. So that's building up into the animal's body. And then, you know, so the small plankton is going to get eaten by a small fish. And then say that fish eats 10 little pieces of plankton, and each of those fish have a piece of microplastic in it. That small fish now has 10 pieces of microplastic in it. And then, you know, go up, the larger fish eats the smaller fish, eats 10 of those. And now that larger fish now has 100 pieces of microplastic in it. And then the big, huge, say a shark or top of the food chain here, apex predator, eats 10 of those large fish. And, you know, he's got 1,000 pieces of microplastic in it. And it's really much more than that. But that's called, and what someone said, as it goes up, as the amount goes up in the food chain, that's called biomagnification. So if you follow this here, you know, you can see the orca here, he's getting the most plastics in them. Even though small in the food chain, they don't get much. Higher up on the food chain you go, the more they get. And that is what is happening with plastics. Again, what is the dangers in this? We don't exactly know, but we know this plastic in their body is not good for them. All right, so, you know, we don't want to have doom and gloom. We want to have solutions. And often when I ask children all the time, what can we do to stop, you know, the plastics from getting into our environment? What can we do? And they're always, first thing that comes out of their mouth is recycling. The reason recycling can be complicated because you can't recycle a plastic over and over and over again. Often it can be recycled once and then that's it. Also, some types of plastics, they can't be recycled. It's just the technology is not there yet. And so, you know, recycling, well, yes, it can kind of help maybe the plastic that's out there, at least it's getting reused again, but it's not a true like solution. There's got to be a plethora of solutions here. So reducing the amount of plastic, that is like one of my #1 things that I say to everyone. Reduce the amount of plastics that you use. Try to refuse those single-use plastics like straws. I know in New Jersey, they actually have a plastic straw. It's kind of like, it's not a ban, but the waiters or waitresses are supposed to ask you if you would like a straw. And, you know, you can refuse or not. I've noticed it's become very lax these days and they just give you the straw anyway at the restaurants. However, and then if you just leave it on the table, they're probably going to throw it out. But, you know, just at home, you know, as you can think of using a reusable straw. And then, you know, reusing things that can help us. That's a big one. If you can reuse your plastic, I know I just buy things that I can reuse over and over again. So this is one thing, like my water bottle here. This is not plastic, this is metal, but the top is plastic. But I'm using it over and over again. You'll see it's very hard to avoid plastic. Very, very hard. You try your best to go plastic free, but it's very difficult. There needs to be other options that just are not out there yet. Also think about repairing. I know my son, he had like a little electronic games all made out of plastic parts. And he's like, Mom, it's broken. Let's just throw it out. And I said, no, wait, I can fix this. It was just a little electronic issue. Took it apart, rewired, put the wires back together. It worked again. We still have the game. We didn't throw it out. And then also rethinking about how we use plastic. And then, of course, doing things like cleanups. That can be a great thing. You know, it's getting that plastic that might end up in the ocean, out of the ocean, even if it's just in, say, your local neighborhood or park. You might not even be near the ocean, but eventually everything leads to a waterway, and all those waterways lead to our ocean. So cleaning up anywhere, cleaning up plastic can help. And it's a good way to get involved in things, and to thinking about meeting other people with like-minded and wanting to help, and then educating others is a big thing as well. So just let's talk about some little single use, say for you at home. And if you guys want to type in the chat, any way you guys can think about how you either could lower your plastic consumption, or maybe what are some things that you do to lower your plastic consumption. And I'm going to stop sharing now. Although, again, it doesn't want me to stop sharing. Veronica, if you could just stop the share, I have some things to show the students that can help them maybe think about things they can do on their own to help reduce the use of plastic.
I got you, Mindy.
All right, thank you. Okay, so, you know, we talked about microfibers being a big source of plastic, microplastics especially. So this is something, this is called a Cora ball. I don't know if you can really see on the screen very well, but it does collect, you probably see some fibers in there. It collects microfibers as your wash goes around. Yes. So you can kind of see how some of those fibers get caught in there. This isn't the best, but it is somewhat reducing the amount of microfibers that you're that's going down your drain. Then there's this. This is a big bag. It's like a mesh bag. It's called a guppy friend. So this is actually, you know, it's got really, really thin, doesn't lets the water through, but not the microplastics. So you put your laundry in here and wash it in here. And then again, those, you know, say nylon or polyester clothing doesn't get the doesn't release the microfibers. There are actually things too that you can add to your laundry, like little filters, external filters that you can add. And then here's something, this is actually a cloth, but this is actually made from bamboo. So, you know, instead of using a microfiber towel, which has become very popular, this is made out of bamboo. It feels like a microfiber towel and it acts like a microfiber towel, but bamboo is a very sustainable type of wood that can be grown and reused. So this, you know, instead of using your microfiber towels, you can use this. Also sponges for cleaning. So this is made of sisal, a natural material, often coconut fibers on the outside here. Instead of using sponges, which are actually a type of polymers. Something you do every day, brush your teeth. This is a wooden toothbrush, and I've seen ones, I don't think this is one, but I've seen where they're actually using boar's hair as a type of bristle to brush your teeth. I actually use a wooden toothbrush now and works great. Dentist has no problem with me doing that. So lots of our things that we use every day. So this is actually a deodorant. I started using, it's not this exact brand, but another deodorant that actually comes, this is like a cardboard waxy type container, not made out of that plastic, just as well as the ones that came in the plastic containers. So you guys can probably know this one. This is a reusable straw. My kids love straws. So I got them this is a metal straw, and they now prefer metal straws. At first, you know, I was used to, when I grew up, using plastic straws all the time, not knowing. And now I think the metal straws are weird. I'd rather just not have a straw, but my kids love metal straws now because they just got used to it. So instead of, you talk about single-use plastic, instead of using like a cling wrap, this is actually made out of beeswax. And this is used to wrap, say, your container of food. And it actually works, it works pretty well, especially if you have food. It kind of adheres, like with your body heat, it will start to warm up and then stick, kind of like a cling wrap. but as it gets in the fridge, of course, it gets cooled off. And so sometimes it comes a little loose, but it works well enough. I use these a lot. They keep avocados really fresh. Works great for those. Let's see. So again, single use. This is actually a silicone bag. Now it's still a type of polymer. What the impacts of this are, no one really knows, but silicone is made actually from sand, from quartz. So probably less, and plus I reuse this over and over and over again. I have many different sizes of this. You know, I take my lunch, my sandwich, I put in this instead of putting it in a Ziploc bag. Again, you go out to dinner, going somewhere, wooden utensils. So you can often get set. So this is a knife, fork. This has actually got even wooden chopsticks in here, but a spoon. And let's see. Oh, so compostable. So you have to be careful with compostable type stuff because some of it claims it's compostable, and you'll see it actually say compostable in an industry type setting, but at least in New Jersey, you can't get to a center that does compostable industry type compost to take your plastic, say that says it's compostable to it. So it's like, why even bother? Because it's still a type of plastic. And then also there's so this is actually used, which I'm looking for. Oh, so here, these are called eco nuts. These are actually little seed pods that are used to do laundry. And then this is a shampoo and conditioner. It comes in a plastic wrap, but compared to a big plastic water bottle, or not water bottle, just shampoo bottle, this is a lot less plastic. There's actually a company I go to that sells it without a wrapper, and you can put this in the metal container to keep it safe and not from getting super wet and then starting to degrade in my shower. So those are all things. This is another thing. So I noticed I took a trip. You can see I took a trip to Waikiki to Hawaii, but we were passing through. This is a water bottle, and it's aluminum, and it's a real light aluminum bottle. And you know, lots of plastic companies will say, well, we need our water bottles because they're very lightweight, which means they're very much more efficient to transport, and they're unbreakable, or very hard to break when we drop them. Well, this is aluminum bottle. It's very lightweight. It's about that. I have a plastic water bottle here. They're really the same size. So, and then this was used, I bought, you know, a bottle of water, and I was like, hey, this is better than plastic. This can be recycled much more easier and not any impact to the environment. So, you know, why isn't this more prevalent than our plastic water bottles? So those are just some quick, you know, tips and tricks that you can do at home to reduce your plastics. Oh yes, I know lots of you guys talked about this. This is reusable bag. I go to the grocery store. Luckily, New Jersey actually has a plastic bag ban. And to note on that, so on beach cleanups, it used to be one of in the top 10 or even top 12 maybe, but I think it was in the top 10 and maybe even like number 3 were plastic bags found during beach cleanups until New Jersey put the plastic bag into effect. And then once that plastic ban came up, plastic bag ban came up, it's now not on the dirty dozen anymore. It's like number 20 or something like that of trash found on the beach. So here are just some quick other ways, and thank you guys for sharing some of your own ways that you reduce plastic at home and on your own.
There are so many really good questions, Mindy. There is such a discussion about how you can mitigate the use of plastics or avoid it. There were discussions about, you know, someone mentioned that there are plastics in animal feed, and people are asking about how to avoid greenwashing. And I'm trying to keep up with your questions. The one question, there was another question about asking about polarization. in microplastics. So yeah, I did answer that question. Microplastics can be negatively charged, but and it's a great idea to think of using maybe electricity to try to collect it. The only problem is electricity travels very well in aqueous environments and can damage and kill marine life. So there's got to be another way to harness that thought. If you're interested in avoiding companies that sell products that aren't earth friendly and sustainable, scour the internet. I put the Tree Hugger blog. I didn't put the link to that in the chat. I'm gonna grab that if I can. The Tree Hugger blog or the Earth Hero website. There are lots of companies that promote sustainable living. There's a lot of resources out there. I wish we could like harness them all like in this hour for you.
Yeah, there's a lot. If you look, there's other ways out there. And so, yeah, some solutions come to, can we engineer a way out of this plastic problem? Hopefully, because we have this plastic here that's now going to last thousands of years. So hopefully we can do something to put us, slow down at least on lots of the plastic that is used. So I mentioned before bioplastics. Those are plastics that are made out of like renewable resources, more natural resources, bio. So let's just corn, potatoes, other things are being, made out of algae. And I've even heard of some things being made out of feathers. But again, I said, be careful about some of the bioplastics being promoted out there today, because they're really not much better than the plastics that we have if they can't be composted. Like I said, if it says it's compostable in a commercial facility, it's not getting composted. But if it says it's compostable at home, then you can use it and compost it at home. And it will break down naturally and not cause any harm to the environment. There's lots of things I see being made today, using recycled plastic, which, yes, in some ways that is great because we're reusing it. This cuts down on the plastics that if they're going to use plastic, how much has to be made. And Diana actually told me about a t-shirt that's being made out of like a seaweed or algae. And it could be sent back after you're kind of done with it, or you get it messed up or it starts to fall apart. You can send it back and they'll just turn it into something else or into another type of t-shirt. Again, they'll recycle it. Again, chemicals, can we turn the plastics that we have back in there into a fuel that could be used? Can we make plastics using chemicals so they are less toxic and more safe for the environment, maybe more easily recycled? Using chemicals to make it more biodegradable or compostable. And then engineering mechanical. So here are some things being used just to collect plastics in general. So this is like it's based on weight, but it sucks up microplastics. It might suck up some small grains of sand. And I've heard of other ones using like optical type things where they can see what the plastic is made out of and then filter it out from there. If it's made out of rock, it's going to spit it back out. If it's made out of a plastic, it can detect it and keep it, which then it can be properly disposed of. So this is something that's collecting plastics from rivers. So as the plastics go down the river, it gets caught in here, and then it's kind of led into its mouth, and then the plastics can be disposed of properly before they make it out into the ocean. And then this is something, it's being more or less used as an awareness educational type tool. This is called Mr. Trash Wheel. And so he was first put in the harbor of Baltimore, Maryland. And then what happens, there's a big drainage pipe that leads into Baltimore's harbor. It's a very popular touristy spot. But this drainage pipe was huge, all kinds of debris and trash was coming down. The Mr. Trash Wheel collects the trash, he and then directs it into here. And again, that trash can then be collected and properly disposed of. And as it comes out of that drainage pipe from the city, those plastics start making their way into the harbor, which then could lead their way into the Chesapeake Bay and then lead their way into the ocean. So looking for other solutions, like might there be some animal or type of, so this is a type of fungus they found actually breaks down plastics, eats like a type of like synthetic leather that we use. So research done on that to see maybe what, is there any kind of microbes out there that might break down plastics for us? Are they going to be safe for the environment? Because that's another thing. You might find something that is safe, breaks down plastic, but is it really safe for the environment in general to be in places maybe where they would not be found naturally? And then, in terms of like recycling, so economic solution, so make that plastic a resource instead of waste. So there's a organization called the Plastic Bank. They actually go to, say, places where there's a lot of plastic. It's third world country. People, they're looking for ways to support themselves and to support their families. So these companies actually pay them to go pick up plastic, say that's on the beaches, and then they pay them for the plastics that they collected. And then they recycle these plastic, turn them into products. And so someone is getting paid, for cleaning up, then the plastic is recycled. The plastic doesn't make its way into the environment. And then the company can actually make money by selling their products. That's called a circular economy. And then legislative solutions. Like I talked about, the plastic bag ban in New Jersey, turning that plastic bag from like top 3 type of plastic found on during our beach cleanups to like, number 20 now on the top things that are found on our beaches. So much, much better improvement there because of this ban on plastics. Also requiring companies to be sustainable, and maybe, because if they are sustainable, they get a little extra support to help make their companies more sustainable. And here's some other ideas, just making laws that making plastics more recyclable or compostable. So a container deposit legislation. So this is where you actually, you put your recycled materials in here, and then you get some money back for recycling those materials. So you might see that there's some states that do this. I think New Hampshire is one. You often see this on metal type products or aluminum because it has more value. But you get some money back that can encourage people to want to recycle. And then just providing funding, for education, for research, and find ways to help, take care of this marine debris, microplastic, plastic pollution problem that we have. However, we still, for now, until we do develop a plastic that is much more environmentally friendly, we still need our plastics. They're still the most hygienic material that can be used for medical uses. If you think about ways that we protect ourselves these days, either, your bike helmet, your baby's car seat, we have plastic right now is the best solution that we have to make them safe, to make that activity safe. And then plus, plastic is great. I can drop it on the floor. It's not going to break. And because it is lightweight, it's much more efficient when being transported. And maybe we don't necessarily need to ban plastic, but we need to learn how to just use it better and not use as much. All right. So thank you for joining my presentation. And I'm going to let you guys ask any more questions that you might have. You can type them in the chat.
We appreciate you guys staying on a little bit longer. I'm so happy to see the discussion. You guys are definitely thinking about ways to help with this problem.
Yes, so thank you, not just for listening, but yeah, coming up with solutions. This is what we need. I'm telling you what's out there, but when you guys come up with some even better things, you know, you're making the world a better place. So I appreciate that.
Thank you, Mindy, and thank you, Diana. I think this has been super inspirational, starting from the problem, trying to understand what the solutions are and things that we can change in our daily practices. I think it's just been a very interesting presentation. I learned a lot from it, and I hope everyone else also were able to learn new things on how we can make our lifestyles more sustainable. It had a very scientific fact lens to it, and so I think we should all be appreciative of the fact that we have such a wonderful experts with Mindy and Diana to be able to share all these suggestions with us. I don't think we will have a lot of time to have a Q&A, and I just wanted to share this link. Please send in your final project ideas and as soon as possible, because I think we are at a point in time where we want to have those projects nailed down, and I hope you've given it a thought. We've been having these discussions over the past 2 weeks, and so send in your ideas on how you want to, what topic area you want to focus on, and we'll take it from there. And I hope this has been a good experience so far in learning about the problem, learning about some solutions, learning about your storytelling techniques, learning about GIS mapping, and now is the time to actually get all of these aspects together, with the ideas. I shared the link here. Mariam has also shared it again. Please send in your ideas soon. We'll be looking forward to reading all of those topics that you've suggested. I just want to thank Diana and Mindy again. Very, very useful presentation, and we've recorded the session, and hopefully students who are not here will be able to see the recording as well. So thank you all, and have a good weekend. I know in some places it's already in the evening, so we won't take a lot of your time.
Yeah, if you have any more questions, I just put my email in the chat. So if you have any more questions, or need maybe some want to run some ideas past me or whatever, some thoughts you have, feel free to contact me.
Thank you so much, Mindy. Thank you, Diana.
Thanks,
Bye.
everybody.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye-bye, everyone. Have a nice weekend.